Hello, Read Minnesota Books listeners. Deborah here, just letting you know that this is the end of season one of Read Minnesota Books. I'm taking a little bit of a break for the summer, and I will be back at the end of August or in September. If you subscribe to Read Minnesota Books on Substack, you'll get an occasional newsletter and you'll hear as soon as the next episode comes out. Or you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And the next episode will just automatically update in your feed when it's out early this fall. And if you've enjoyed any of these first 20 episodes of Read Minnesota Books, be sure to tell a friend, share on social media, rate on your podcast app. Thanks. And now we'll hear from the next author.
Where is my sister? Salome knew she had a sister. She just didn't know where she was. Mama's tummy had been round and growing forever, it seemed. When Gerald asked what was in there, Daddy said, a baby. And then, with a smile, a baby girl. You will be a big sister, Gerald told Salome, and I the biggest brother. But there was no baby now. There was only quiet. Salome didn't like it.
Thanks for listening to Read Minnesota Books. I'm your host, Deborah Copperrood. Shannon Gibney is an award-winning author of novels, anthologies, essays, and picture books. She writes for adults, children, and everyone in between. Her books and writings have received many awards. She is a professor of English at Minneapolis College, where for over 15 years she has worked with refugees, ex-offenders, international and in-country immigrants, Indigenous and communities of color, and students from all walks of life. She regularly teaches courses on writing craft at the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis, and she's done workshops, readings, and residencies at libraries, colleges, and universities. Shannon is also running for Minneapolis School Board District 3. The last time we spoke, it was for an interview about her book, We Miss You, George Floyd, which I will link to in the show notes. Shannon, welcome to Read Minnesota Books.
Thank you so much for having me.
What is your connection to Minneapolis?
Oh, wow. Many, because I've lived here for a long time now, almost 25 years, actually, which is a little insane for me to think about, but that is the truth. I live in Powderhorn Park, so that is South Minneapolis. I've lived here for most of the time that I've been here. As you said in your wonderful introduction, I'm a writer, a professor, an activist and organizer, and a teacher. I have a teenage son at South High School, and I have a daughter who's just about to enter Anderson Middle School in the fall. So I'm also a district parent. Because of that, I agreed with some of the organizing in community that I was doing to run for school board. Part of the reason why I'm in Minneapolis, I'm in Minnesota, is the same reason why a lot of writers and artists are in Minnesota is because of the amazing community that's here for us and the amazing support that's here for us with that. So, as I'm sure you know, Minnesota is the only state that actually has funding for the arts written into its constitution. And then, of course, we have, there's tons of nonprofits and there's tons of foundations and libraries and all kinds of things. My friends who are writers in other parts of the country are just like, you know, what is going on in Minnesota? And I'm like, well, it's been going on for a long time and we're just building it out. You just keep contributing your little thing to it, which feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Tell me about your new book, Where is My Sister?
So, Where's My Sister is a children's picture book written by me and illustrated by Hu Von Lee, who is a wonderful Hmong American illustrator in New York City, and she produced just really beautiful, and I feel like just very emotionally resonant images for the book. The book is published by University of Minnesota Press. It just came out about no, it's been a month now. It's been almost a month now. And it is the story of this little girl whose mom has a stillbirth. She's super excited to be a big sister. And she also has a big brother. And, they're both excited. Everybody's excited about this new addition to the family. And then her mom goes to the hospital and she doesn't come back with a baby. And she's really sad. And this little girl, Salome, doesn't like it at all. She doesn't understand what has happened. And nobody will really explain it to her in a way that makes sense to her. And so she keeps on going around to different family members and different people and asking, but where's my sister? And they keep on giving her different answers that she sort of tries to piece together into some sort of story that, yeah, that resonates for her. Yeah. And so I wrote this maybe 8 years ago. So this particular book took a little while to get out. Picture books take a while to get out, not 8 years usually, because the illustrator, of course, needs to take their time to do the best job that they can with that part of it. Yeah, so I had my own experience with a stillbirth with my first daughter. And then I watched my son and then, my second daughter now sort of go through the journey individually and together of trying to navigate that. And then, like a lot of the stuff that I write, it comes out of the experience of going through something and then, doing what writers do, which is looking for the existing literature on that experience, on that topic, and not really finding it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then writing that story into the literature. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never encountered a picture book about on that topic before. 10 years ago, I used to write book recommendations for a mom newsletter, and your book prompted me to like go through my archives and look up my old recommendations. So people were always looking for books about death in this like club I belonged to. So back then I liked Where Do People Go When They Die by Mindy Avra Portney and Always and Forever by Alan Durant. And then I also think about Elizabeth McCracken's A Perfect Replica of a Figment of My Imagination. I might not be getting the title quite right.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there other books in that same vein as yours that helped you approach this topic, or is this like kind of brand new to and a very necessary, like welcome addition to picture books?
Yeah, so as far as picture books go, like I'm not an expert on what's out there, but I personally have not encountered anything about this topic. There's definitely picture books that like push the edges of the genre, but kind of the received wisdom is like, you're not supposed to write books for children about death, or certainly not about dead babies,
Mm,
and so, I mean, I obviously don't believe that. And I think there's plenty of people who don't believe that. I mean, I think that books and literature and art exist to help make sense of whatever human experience we're having. And unfortunately, one of the human experiences that we can have is stillbirth, is death. It's something that will touch all of us at some point in our lives. Um, and so I do feel lucky that the good folks at University of Minnesota Press, who I had done other books with before, recognized that fact. And then in 2019, I published this book, What God Has Honored Here. And the subtitle is Writings on Miscarriage and Infant Loss by and for Native Women and Women of Color. And I co-edited it co-edited it with my dear friend, local Hmong writer Khao Kalia Yang. And so that is, it's mostly memoir, but it also has short story, poetry, etc. from yeah, women who've experienced these kinds of losses. And that was the first book of its kind. And that was incredibly meaningful. Um, of course, difficult book. It's a difficult book to put together. It's a difficult book for people to read. It's also a book that, you know, women have reached out to me and have been like, this is the only thing that really helped me through this book.
Oh.
Like, other people tried to help, but they didn't understand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I needed I needed other women who had been through it and could just be real about, what that was like, not try to sugarcoat it. As women, it's like we're supposed to sort of think of everybody else's emotional needs before our own. And yeah, and part of my impetus for that book too was like, yeah, I was encountering all these sort of like platitudes, around infant loss, like women who are like, oh, my little angel, like I know you're in heaven and I know you're, you know, all these things. And I'm like, no, I want a book actually that talks about what it's like to see your dead baby like on the screen, not moving, to be told that you're still going to have a vaginal birth.
Yeah.
And then to walk into the bathroom in your hospital room because you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden there's three doctors there, and like then your dead baby comes out. Like, how does that feel in your body? That's what I want to read. I was like, that's what I need, and it wasn't there. And so that's why we put that together. And after we put that together, then again, living through my children's experience of trying to make sense and make meaning out of that experience was what prompted Where's My Sister?
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry that you went through that experience and your family did, but I think that this is like a beautiful gift to people who also have to go through that. Like, of course, it's helpful to read from somebody who has lived that experience and is so eloquent on the page as you are. I want to transition a little bit
Yeah.
to your school board run. I'm very excited about your campaign. Can you talk briefly about running for school board and your priorities for Minneapolis Public Schools?
Yeah. So people who are in Minneapolis Public Schools, families, caregivers, may know that we now have a projected $39 million deficit for next year. Um, and that's a result of decades of disinvestment in public education, um, and other things, but mostly that, right? And so that is like the number one priority for myself. And then there's actually a slate of parents running. We're part of a grassroots group called Minneapolis Families for Public Schools, which just now um, last month became Minnesota Families for Public Schools statewide, because, of course, a big problem is that statewide funding has
Mm-hmm.
not with the needs of school districts and our students. And so, it's sort of like there's this ethos, this mythos, I guess is a better word, that, Minnesota is this, like, oh, pro schools, pro public schools state. We fund our schools so well. And it's just not true. It used to be true, but it's not true. We're now number 20 um, in state funding. And so, um, it's really going to take, I think, a different kind of leadership, a different kind of organizing um, on the Minneapolis Public Schools school board. And I would also argue in districts throughout the state to change this. Myself, Becca Dryden, who's running in D5, another parent, and then Kristen Crabtree at large, also another parent. Like, we understand that, yeah, we have been at the state legislature, like lobbying for increased funds, making those connections and relationships, helping meeting, people in, rural districts and exurban districts and suburban districts, and, trying to, get folks organized to put pressure on our reps for this. Also, there's unfortunately been some issues with mismanagement in the Minneapolis Public Schools Finance Department. I do think the district leadership is trying to get a handle on that, but there's just been like a lack of accountability
Hmm.
for a lot of things, especially following the CDD or comprehensive district redesign, which happened right after the pandemic and changed all the pathways for students throughout the district. We ended up losing about 20% of our families after that. So that was a big disaster. Now they're talking about the transformation and this new transformation plan, right, which they haven't released yet. So people are really worried. So there's all kinds of things going on. There's certain things I've always known about myself, right? I've pretty much, since I learned how to read, I knew that I was going to be writing in some form because that's just something that I felt called to do. I feel most myself when I'm engaged in this work. Being on a school board was never something that I was like, you know what, before I die, I really need to be on the Minneapolis Public Schools school board. No, but I just doing when Trump was elected for a second time, I knew that I was going to have to do much more local organizing in order for my mental health to be okay.
Hmm.
I'm a very busy woman, like we said in the beginning with my bio, right? Like I teach a lot. I'm a single mom. I'm a writer. I'm out in my community, but I was like, I have 3 to 5 hours a week that I can give to local organizing, and so I wanted to find something that I felt was meaningful to me, but also I could contribute something important. And so that's when I started doing this organizing with these other parents throughout the district last year, and they kept on other parents and caregivers kept on being like, you need to run for school board. And I was like, no, 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 that job is too hard. Like, I'm too busy, you know. And then actually my son is one of two student reps on the board. And so I was, he needs more hours. He has his driving permit, but he doesn't yet have his license. So I've been there at the meetings, the school board meetings. And so I was there when we were coming out of Operation Metro Surge. And they were like, oh, yeah, we have a projected $50 million deficit. Now it's like they found more money like through special education, like they had coded that incorrectly or something. And so they found like whatever, $11 million, right? So now it's not as bad, right? Or whatever. But in that moment I was like, well, Shannon, I guess you're running for school board. Because yeah.
Well, good for you. Yeah, I've emailed my kid's school principal about the surprise revenue quotation marks,
Oh God.
with ideas of how they can use it.
Where do your kids go to school?
Justice Page and Fair.
Yep. Yep.
And they're amazing schools. They should be fully funded.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. And we can do this. This is like a solvable problem, right? It's just we have to get organized. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a lot of politicians write books, usually when they're gearing up for a bigger run. I'm thinking about like Amy Klobuchar, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, but those folks are not writers.
No.
And I think it would be great if we had more writers like you serving in elected office. But that's kind of opposite to the personality type that is drawn to being a writer, right? But
Yes.
how do you think that your experience as a writer will help you should you win the election?
I mean, yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a few things. I think one thing, right? Like I'm 51. So it's like I already have my career, right? I already have um, you know, this sort of legacy of work behind me. Um, Unfortunately, I do feel like a lot of people get into politics because, yeah, they're trying to build their career, right? They're trying to make a name for themselves, or like even for school board, right? A lot of folks sort of like, oh, I start off in the school board so that then I can go to, try to be the state rep, or, try to run for Congress or whatever.
I'm not saying this is why she did it, but Peggy Flanagan was on
Yeah, no, she
school
did. And
board. Yeah.
still says, I kind of love it when she says this. She's just like, I'm a recovering school board school board director, right? I mean, it's a hard job. It's everybody, yeah, says that it's just not easy. Um, and right. So a lot of politicians sort of, they start at these sort of lower levels. Um, never say never, but that's not why I'm doing it. Like I do feel like generally you do want the person that's like says no a bunch of times to be the one who's going to be in that leadership role and like have that kind of power, because that kind of shows that they're uncomfortable with that, right? They're not necessarily trying to wield it for themselves. I think writers too, like, um, you're right. I have to be upfront. I'm a weird writer. I'm an extrovert. Most of my friends who are writers are introverts. They're people who love to be in a room by themselves for hours, making up these fictitious situations with these interesting characters. Obviously, I love that too. I do. Um, but also, I think that, yeah, writers are able to sit with these complex issues for like really long time, and get to their emotional truths, not necessarily get caught up in other kinds of truths. And I think especially right now with our screen obsessed, like attention economy, like that's what we need more of. We do need more people who are like just able to shut out the noise and just focus on this one task at hand, and like the process of that task, because all writers and artists understand if you get wrapped up in like the product of it, it's not going to be good. um and I mean, I also tell my students, it's like, writing is really hard. Publishing is harder. And so you have to do it because you love it, you know? And and so I feel like there's a kind of quiet grit, I guess, that writers have, right? That have stuck with all the rejection, and all the difficulty of trying to write well and then, get published and then get your stuff out in a meaningful way. Um, yeah, I feel like we can bring all of those important aspects into the political realm. Yeah.
That's an excellent answer. What do you like better, writing a first draft or revising what you've already written?
No, I am definitely a first draft person. And I really wish that like that wasn't true, because so much of writing is revising. I've gotten more comfortable with revising, like the more I've done it, for sure. It's never easy, right? It's never easy. Especially, when you have to cut something, which you often do, right? That you yourself like really, really love this section, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the rest of the piece. And so you have to let it go. Or just when you're at a certain place with the manuscript and you're just sort of like, okay, it's kind of like in the middle and you're sort of like, I'm not really sure how this part goes with this other part. And like, sometimes you just have to also just put things away for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and just like hope and trust that you can come back to it at some point when you have some more insight about these things. But first drafts to me are just kind of magical, like they just feel like so pure, right? It's just like they're just coming out of you, right? And you're not, you know, I feel like if you're doing it right, you don't have that, critical editor in your mind, right? You're just sort of going with it and seeing where it takes you. And yeah, it's very exciting to me. It's very, yeah, I love first drafts.
Cool. And who was your favorite Minnesota writer?
Oh my God, there's so many. I have so many, and I feel like that is the beauty and um just like the embarrassment of riches, I guess they would say. People say like that we have here in Minnesota. Um, you know, all of my friends work, but like Kao Kalia Yang, I just think her work is just stunning. Kelly Barnhill as well. Love her stuff. Sean Webster, Sun Young Shin, um, Janata Petra. I mean, it's so many people, so many people. Yeah.
Are you on social media? Where can folks follow you online?
I'm on Blue Sky. So people can follow me there. It's just at Shannon Gibney. And then if you want to follow me for my school board stuff, it's I think it's Shannon at D3. She'll check that. But I also have that as well. And then of course I have my website, which is shannongibney.com. And so you can always contact me through that too.
Wonderful. Thank you for speaking with me about your book and about your school board run. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And now for my recommendation this episode. I know that you should vote. I'm recording this in June 2026, and it's not too early to make a plan to vote and save the country from fascism, Earth death, and LLM takeover. So start checking in with your friends and neighbors. Research the down ballot races. See if any of your neighbors need help getting registered to vote, voting early or absentee. Here in Minnesota, it's quite easy to vote and register on the same day, but elsewhere, you might need a little lead time. So please exercise your right to vote, defend our democracy. And that concludes this episode of Read Minnesota Books, and that concludes this season of Read Minnesota Books. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this, tell a friend, and don't forget to rate and review the podcast on your app. And I will see you back in the fall. Bye.